Sounds of Silence is the second studio album by Simon and Garfunkel, released on January 17, 1966. The album's title is a slight modification of the title of the duo's first major hit, The Sound of Silence, which originally was released as The Sounds of Silence. The song had earlier been released in an acoustic version on the album Wednesday Morning, 3 a.m., and later on the soundtrack to the movie The Graduate. Without the knowledge of Paul Simon or Art Garfunkel, electric guitars, bass and drums were overdubbed by Columbia Records staff producer Tom Wilson on June 15, 1965. This new version was released as a single in September 1965, and opens the album. Homeward Bound was released on the album in the UK, placed at the beginning of side 2 before Richard Cory. It was also released as part of the box set Simon and Garfunkel Collected Works, on both LP and CD. Many of the songs in the album had been written by Paul Simon while he lived in London during 1965. I Am a Rock, Leaves That Are Green, April Come She Will, A Most Peculiar Man, and Kathy's Song had appeared on the Paul Simon Songbook, released in August 1965 in England as had another version of the title track. Richard Cory was based on a poem by Edwin Arlington Robinson. Somewhere They Can't Find Me was essentially a rewrite of the previous album's Wednesday Morning, 3 a.m., and Angie was an instrumental piece that Simon had picked up, presumably in London, from guitarist Davy Graham. Hence the only brand new Paul Simon compositions on the album were Blessed, and We've Got a Groovy Thing Going. The album is also included in its entirety as part of the Simon and Garfunkel box sets Collected Works and the Columbia Studio recordings. On March 22, 2013, it was announced that the album will be preserved by the Library of Congress in the National Recording Registry, calling it culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. Track listing: all songs were written by Paul Simon, except where noted. Side 1 The Sound of Silence a Euro 308 recorded, March 10, 1964 and June 15, 1965. Leaves That Are Green a Euro 223 recorded, December 13, 1965, Blessed a Euro 316 recorded, December 21, 1965, Kathy's Song a Euro 321 recorded, December 21, 1965, Somewhere They Can't Find Me a Euro 237 recorded, April 5, 1965, Angie a Euro 217 recorded, December 13, 1965. Side 2 Homeward Bound a Euro 230, UK only recorded, December 14, 1965, Richard Cory a Euro 257 recorded, December 14, 1965, A Most Peculiar Man a Euro 234 recorded, December 22, 1965, April Come She Will a Euro 151 recorded, December 21, 1965, We've Got a Groovy Thing Going a Euro 200 recorded, April 5, 1965. I Am a Rock a Euro 250 recorded, December 14, 1965. Bonus tracks Blues Run the Game a Euro 255 recorded, December 21, 1965. Barbary Ellen a Euro 406 recorded, July 8, 1970. Rose of Aberdeen a Euro 202 recorded, July 8, 1970. Roving Gambler a Euro 303 recorded, July 8, 1970. Notes: the English singer-songwriter Billy Bragg lifted the opening lines of Leaves That Are Green for his song In New England, which appeared on Bragg's 1983 EP Life's a Riot with Spy vs. Spy. These same lyrics can be found in the Kirsty MacColl version of this song. Released as a cover in 1984, the song was MacColl's biggest solo hit a Euro reaching number 7 in the UK and number 8 in Ireland. The Tremolos recording of Blessed became their 1966 solo debut single. Somewhere They Can't Find Me is essentially a reworking of the title track of the duo's first album, Wednesday Morning, 3 a.m. It was recorded along with We've Got a Groovy Thing Going a few months before producer Tom Wilson dubbed electric instruments on Sounds of Silence. The recurring descending bass line in the track as well as its introductory guitar riff were borrowed from Davy Graham's acoustic guitar piece Angie, a cover of which follows on the album. 2 songs on the album deal with suicide, Richard Cory, and A Most Peculiar Man. The song Richard Cory was based on a poem with the same title by Edwin Arlington Robinson. The chorus, however, is entirely of Simon's composition. Them recorded Richard Cory as a single in 1966. Wings covered Richard Cory on their 1976 live triple album Wings Over America. The song April Comes She Will bears structural resemblance to a traditional English rhyme, cuckoo, cuckoo, what do you do? A phonology of the common cuckoo from April through September. Nancy Wilson performs a cover of Kathy's song on her 1999 album Live at McCabe's Guitar Shop. Cover equals, the album cover photo was shot at Franklin Canyon Park in Los Angeles, California. There are 3 cover variations of the LP, original issue, Simon and Garfunkel on one line. Sounds of Silence on another, all in capital letters, no song titles on the front. Second issue, enlarged title letters, with only the first letter of the word Sounds, and Silence in the album title capitalized. The first letters in Simon and Garfunkel are capitalized, but the rest are in lowercase. Song titles also included on the front. Third issue, same front cover as the second, the back cover has the copy of Tiger Beat magazine in Garfunkel's hand airbrushed out. The original LP label mistakenly spells Angie as Angie, and credits it to Bert Jansch, who had recorded the tune for his 1965 debut album. The back cover of the original LP sleeve properly credits Davy Graham as composer but retains the Angie misspelling. Both errors were corrected for subsequent reissues. On older LP and CD issues of the album, The Sound of Silence is titled as The Sounds of Silence on both the cover and label. Similarly, We've Got a Groovy Thing Goin' is titled as We've Got a Groovy Thing Goin'. Charts equals. Personnel, Paul Simon, lead vocals, guitar, Art Garfunkel, lead vocals, Frederick Carter, Jr. guitar, Larry Knechtel, keyboards, Glenn Campbell, guitar, Joe South, guitar, Joe Osborne, bass guitar, Hal Blaine, drums. Sounds of Silence was recorded in December 1965 at CBS Studios in Nashville, Tennessee, and Los Angeles, California. The album was produced by Bob Johnston. The Sound of Silence personnel, Al Gorgony, guitar, Vinnie Bell, guitar, Joe Mack, bass guitar, Bobby Gregg, drums. The Sound of Silence overdues were recorded at Columbia's studio at 799 7th Avenue near 52nd Street by Columbia Records staff producer Tom Wilson on June 15, 1965. Further reading, Charlesworth, Chris, The Complete Guide to the Music of Paul Simon and Garfunkel, Omnibus Press 1996, McLaughlin, Paul Simon Discography 1955-1999, Simon and Garfunkel, 1964-1971, Williams, Paul, Sounds of Silence, Simon and Garfunkel, Crawdaddy. Magazine, first issue, January 30, 1966. Reprinted in the Crawdaddy book, Writings from the Magazine of Rock, by Paul Williams, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Hal Leonard Corporation, 2002. References. External links, Sony Music.